All right, so you came into the space basically like on a rebel tip. Like you saw the value in that. Okay, how did it transfer from you being a crypto guy to then wanting to learn about the stock market and understanding dividend investing?
Well, I started a group called Crypto Culture. I don't even know if I added you guys to it, but I should.
I'm in it. I'm in the group.
All right. I just sent Jim an invite, so Jim is now in the group too. I started a group called Crypto Culture because I wanted to educate. I always want people to learn something, and I don't mind sharing things that might not benefit me to share it with you right then.
Mm-hmm.
But if we all know it, then we all benefit from it, right? And I started a group called Crypto Culture, and I just invited a whole bunch of my friends. At first, a lot of my friends were upset that I added them to a Bitcoin group, right? I was like, it's Bitcoin, but I was telling them, well, I invited you. What's the worst that can happen? You can leave. If you don't like it, you can always just leave group and don't take it any which kind of way, but I'm trying to build membership.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to get on the phone with friends. I'd be on the phone night after night. We'd be talking about Ether. We'd be talking about Bitcoin. And I was like, how does this stuff, I need to really know how this stuff works. So I went deep diving, looking for everything I could find, and ran across one of the big dudes. His last name is Greek. I can't remember it now. But I ran into some of the bigger people in cryptocurrency, and I started to understand the technical background of it, where it came from technically, and what it does, and why they can't shut it down. It's a monster. It's a monster on the loose. It's like, it's Godzilla, but it's baby Godzilla right now. People don't understand it, so it's still small. But when I understood how cryptocurrency worked, I started to look at all these different altcoins, and I started to get in them. Fortunately for me, getting into cryptocurrency at the very beginning of 2017, when it was going through its bull run, was far more beneficial than learning about it, say, in 2018, when it started to go through its bear run.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have been somewhat discouraged. But I did pretty well in 2017. I could have, like I said, done a lot better, but I wasn't mature enough to do as good as I should. I wasn't mature enough at the time. Plus, I've been suffering with the rejection issues for a moment. And what I've come to find out is when you're suffering from rejection, eventually it starts to affect your mind. How fast you can think, how much you can focus. I found myself sleeping a lot more. Found myself sleeping most of the day. Sleep. I need to sleep again. I'm tired. Anything I did had to go back to sleep after. So, I was losing a lot of time when I could have been awake to make deals, awake to do things, losing time. So then I was hearing talk about, the banks coming in and bringing Bitcoin back down to zero. And I was like, that's not possible. They can't do that. But I had, at this time, I'd acquired a mentor. I'd already acquired a mentor who was telling me that, oh no, they could do it, and I'll explain how. And if you can explain it to me, if you can explain it, and then I can go and research it on my own, I have to accept it. I was like, so this is bigger than I thought. This is a lot bigger than I thought. And in the meantime, Sharika Burton is in the background on my page. I made this much. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And I'm so crypto. I wasn't completely listening to her. But the thing was, she never stopped talking.
I don't think she ever will.
She didn't stop talking, and I'm not going to ignore you, but for so long, if you're doing one thing and I see what I'm doing was kind of working, but not working as much. And so, I asked her, what's this more? Tell me more about it. And, she was telling me about the Abacus, and, it's all black group. And I was like, oh, well, that's plus 1, 2, and 3 pluses right there. That's like 3 things checked off. I like that. And she was telling me it was about the stock market. And I was listening and started to understand that, so I'm participating in the stock market whether I'm in it or not. I'm part of it. I'm a consumer, but I'm not an investor. And since cryptocurrency, introduced me to the world of investing, because at first, when I first got into it, the fascination was just some new form of currency. To me, that was fascinating, and to be on the leading edge of it is a beautiful thing. But then I realized I didn't know enough about investing. I didn't know enough about reading charts. I didn't know enough about any of these things to really put the knowledge I had to best use. So I joined the Abacus. You know, Sharika talked me into it. I joined the Abacus and got the phases, and was like, incredible. I didn't know I didn't know 2% of what I learned in phase one, and there's 4 phases. So by the time I went through the 4th phase, I knew enough to know I could make something happen right now. Now I've been concentrating on the CBD because, you know, basically it saved my life. It's kind of hard not to concentrate on what saved your life.
Yeah.
But, you know, I also started another group called Each One M1 because of M1, the app.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it just made it easier. I thought it just made it easier for people to get in,
Mm-hmm.
because now you don't have to worry about buying complete. You don't have to worry about buying whole shares that can cost $50 or $180. So you can start off with 100 and you own pieces. And with, you
So
know, with dividends, you know how long that if you do something for 40, 50 years, it's going to start paying bills, or if not your bills, your children's bills, or your grandchildren's bills, or your great-great-grandchildren's bill. And it
no,
can
absolutely. Listen, dividend stocks to me, and you know, it's one of my passions. I talk about it daily on IG and all over everywhere because I had what I like to call the financial matrix moment. And it sounds like you had that too. And what the financial matrix moment is when you start to see the world different based upon understanding the markets. You start to understand the markets and you start looking around and you realize how many companies own other companies. You mentioned one thing which is interesting is how you participate, whether you want to or not, you're participating in the system, right? So when I first got started, someone was educating me on the markets. Again, this goes back to when I first got into real estate. I'm a teenager and I'm learning about investing in the market as well as real estate. And the first 2 companies I purchased, and this is not investment advice, and you will see the disclaimer, but I'm just being transparent. I didn't know anything about the market, but this goes to show you the power of branding, right? And shout out to our brother David. He would tell me that it's the dark persuasion right here. But I recognize
Diamond
the
Dave, no.
Diamond Dave. Shout out to him. I recognize the logo. I was like, all right, so I want to invest in the market. What do I put my money in? Oh, big logo, McDonald's. I see them everywhere in the city, in Coca-Cola, right? And I tell people all the time, out of all the buildings I own and have owned, the best real estate investment I probably ever made was buying McDonald's back in the 90s. Because I've literally been getting a check 4 times a year from McDonald's for over 20 years. Like,
That's big.
And people don't understand that. I'm like, literally, like they send me a check every quarter and they have so, you know, people don't have jobs that pay them that often. Like, you know, so what I tell people all the time with dividend stocks is you start to add companies on, you start getting checks. Now, when you first start, it may look small or whatever, but those things grow over time to the point where your dividend checks can pay your bills. To the point where, let's just say you buy 20 companies and all of them pay quarterly. You're talking about getting 80 checks a year.
Exactly.
Most people get paid once a month or twice a month or every 2 weeks, which is 26 checks. You can add checks just by buying a company that's a solid company, a blue chip company. You know, I don't get into. I probably have the most boring portfolio because I have a bunch of stuff that just constantly pays me.
My portfolio is pretty much boring. Well, messing with Lance, I got into the marijuana stock. So my portfolio, I have a few different portfolios.
Okay, so you got a little sexy. I'm talking about like most people these days want the sexy stuff. They want the tech stuff, and listen,
I got 2 tech companies in my whole portfolio.
I'm like consumer defensive, but we'll get into that in a minute. Let's get back to the brother because I think this is interesting. I think the story of coming in crypto, more or less a rebel, not even from the investment standpoint, just it being a new currency and that being of interest to you. And then somehow that led you to be like a dividend investor advocate because, man, you be going in about them dividends.